Welcome to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast where resilience is not just a concept, it's a lived experience. I'm your host, Thomas Scaria, a resilience coach, a ultra marathoner, and a relentless believer in the human spirit's ability to rise. This podcast is a companion to my book, Resilience Plus Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset. Each episode is a raw, unfiltered dive into the stories of those who have faced life's hardest battles and emerged stronger. Now, do people have to really go through struggles to be over here? Struggles is a everyday concept in our life, depending on how we look at it. Whether we are starting a new business, whether we are starting on a new journey on in our life, it could be anything. But what I look forward is the resilience part that yes, another day is gone, a new day begins, and let's begin on that. Why am I saying this? Because today's guest exactly lives on those particular mindset. Coming from the Mediterranean coastal island of Cyprus, Noemi Beres. She is a she thrives in something called as podcast. Well, that's what we are over here doing, a podcast. She works on a platform called as Podcast Connection, a service that helps entrepreneurs share their knowledge and grow their businesses through broadcast interviews. She has got more than a decade, years of experience. But just getting people across together, whether it's crafting their messages, promoting their appearances, there's a lot more that goes behind the podcast. For me, this conversation is not going to be about podcast connection, but about who Naomi is. Naomi, welcome to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for inviting me to be a guest on your show. I'm truly honored and blessed to be here with you today.
Fantastic. So now, when we talk about podcasting, we have been podcasting. People think it's quite easy. Okay, you're just getting some people together, connecting them, and getting those particular things. But for me, when I look at my own story, why did I come to podcast? It goes back to the book that I have written, and I knew that there are a lot of stories, and truly, yeah, there are a lot of people who have got stories. So, Naomi, my first question is, what's your story?
Yes, my story. I was born and raised in Hungary in Central Europe. And
Hmm.
I always wanted to see the world. I always wanted to discover new cultures and learn new languages since I was a kid. And I think that kind of drive, that kind of positive force was in me growing
Okay.
up. And I always wanted to just try something new. So I became an exchange student when I was 16 and I lived in Denmark for a year. I learned Danish. And thanks to that, I have a master's degree in Scandinavian studies. I became a linguist, a Danish linguist. So languages, new cultures always fascinated me. And I just kept going. And I didn't stop after, living in Denmark. I moved to Ireland after that and lived 7 beautiful years on the green island of
Beautiful.
Ireland.
Hmm.
And I loved the Irish people and their sense of humor, but I didn't like the rain and the cold. So that's why I ended up on this beautiful Mediterranean island. And in the meantime, I also realized that I don't want to work for anybody else because I worked for a company for 3 years in Ireland, and I decided that I want to become my own boss. I want to
Hmm.
become an entrepreneur, and that was back in 2007. And since then, I've been doing a lot in marketing, sales, online marketing, content creation. And I realized that like this is what I love doing. But then the pandemic happened, and the first business we had with my husband basically stopped in 2020 because of the COVID hit the whole world. So we had to pivot and we had to start a new business. And that's how Podcast Connections, our company, was born. But I'm not just an entrepreneur. As you know, I think we talked about that in our previous conversation with you. I'm also an artist, a mixed media collage artist, and a mental health advocate. And I try to really help and serve people around the world with my knowledge in whatever way I can. Also a go-giver by heart, member of Bob Berg's Go-Giver community, which is really close to my heart. They are kind of my tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, adding value to other people's life is really, really important. So that's basically who I am in a nutshell. But we could talk about probably for 2 hours or something.
Fantastic. So over here, as the guys, she, as you mentioned, as she mentioned, she's a mental health advocate, and so it is not just about entrepreneurship, but there's also a certain other goals. Because I tend to always believe, and that again, it's my belief, is that some of our most beautiful purposes comes from our deepest of wounds. At times, when the wound is so deep, from there a light shines, which helps others to see that particular light and help others to find the way. Were there some events in your life in that way that made you to come to this particular space, whether it is about the mental health, whether it is about the podcasting, whether it is about giving back?
That was really beautifully put, Thomas. Thank you for that. And a great question. Yeah, a few things happened in my life that really kind of forced me to grow through this very tough and interesting journey, I would say. My dad was diagnosed with cancer in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and knew that he won't have much left, but thankfully he stayed with us for 2 more years, and he passed away in 2019 on my son's 7th birthday, exactly on his birthday.
Oh,
And thank you. And so, and after that, like a few months later, my grandma died because of an accident. So it was a lot happening in my life. And because I'm an only child in the family, I really had to be the support and for my mom, because yeah, she was all by herself. So I realized that I took on so much. I didn't look after myself because I had to be strong. I had to stay resilient. I had to be there for everybody. And it was not an easy ride because I realized that like, okay, I'm having anxiety. I'm not feeling well. And I didn't seek for help. I didn't seek for help from a therapist or a psychologist. What I did, I went back to my roots, but I went back to my artist roots and used art as a part of my healing process.
okay.
So, and that was, let's go back to the beginning of 2020. So my dad, half of my family passed away, close family passed away. And then I realized I need help, but I need to help myself somehow. So on a subconscious level, I started to make all these collages again, and I picked it up. So every single evening, it was a form of meditation for me. Went into my room, listening to music or podcast or audiobook and working on my hand-sewn collages. And for me, that was so therapeutic that after a while, I realized that, okay, this is helping me. This is good, but I have to keep going. I have to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized after a while, after a few months, that this is helping my anxiety. It's just, decreasing. And I also realized that if this helps me, I can go out, I can share my knowledge on podcast. I did some studies after that on positive psychology and art therapy. And I started to talk about the positive and powerful effect of art and art making
Wonderful.
after I started to kind of heal myself.
That's beautiful. It's I always believe is that life shows you the door time
Mm.
and again. It's it may not come in big bold writings, but sometimes you got to keep seeking, and you would come across few doors that would surprise you wonderfully, and that impact would carry on to another human too. When you got into this particular element of podcast, which you have been in for the last few years, or even entrepreneurship, but let's stick to podcast. A lot of people they want to get into podcasts and hoping that it's one of those easy things that people can do because nowadays social media, whether it's YouTube or Instagram short reels or Facebooks or whatever it is, people think that because there are people who have been making a quick money out of it,
Yeah.
getting followers, etc. But from your learnings, if you are supposed to be saying, let's say around three or four top takeaways for anybody wanting to get into the industry for podcasting, or guys, I will be putting out Naomi's contact details down in the comments below. So just have a look onto it if you are interested in getting more into podcasting, or for her to connect you with other people. I've had a great example. I mean, sorry, a great experience with that particular element. Thank you, Naomi, for that. But what would be the three to four things or elements that you would suggest for people to grow and thrive in this particular area of podcasting? Because podcasting, when I look at it, there are a lot of people in this market who show as they are podcasters. They go as per the maybe how they're going it, each one to their own ways. But what's your takeaway?
I think because we're talking about the podcast host, right, Thomas? Like the podcast host angle, not the guest right now.
It can be either or both.
Either or. Yeah, I think it's really important that to be a successful, whether a host or whether a guest, to really provide a space for, like if you're a host, to provide the space for the other person, to hold space for them during a conversation, to
Hmm.
really listen to them and intentionally like being present with them. Because I've been on a few podcasts when the host just wanted to get over the interview as soon as possible and get on the next one, and we didn't dive deep into anything. They just wanted to get on the next question, and I think that's kind of intentional deep listening and being present. It's so important. And it doesn't matter that if you're a host or a guest, it's the same situation. I mean, if you're a guest, again, you're not thinking about like, okay, what am I going to give my kid for dinner, or what's my next meeting. It's about like when you are there as a guest, for example, just be totally present, leave everything behind, and just concentrate on those 20, 30, 40 minutes, just being present, being positive, and bring them that kind of energy to the conversation that people won't tune out. And because there are millions of podcasts out there,
Of
they
course.
can listen to anyone. But if you bring that kind of energy and knowledge and story, being open and vulnerable on a show, people won't tune out. They will stay till the end. And I think that's really important. And that applies to, again, to host and to guest exactly the same way, because people will feel if you are not really there, if you are not present, if you are not interested, and you just get over with the conversation and yeah, done and dusted, next one. And I think it's really important to realize for people that podcast guesting is one of the most important relationship marketing tool right now in the world. Like, we have having a conversation, but we already established a relationship, and then it's really up to you. How do you use this relationship to your advantage later? What I suggest to people, whether it's a host or a guest, after the interview, send a thank you note to each other, because we can thank each other for being, having an amazing experience together, and also encourage them to get on a post-interview chat where they can figure out how to help, how to serve each other. They can do business together. Because the problem is that there's so many guests and so many hosts. They post once about the interview on social media, let's say on LinkedIn. Okay, I was on this podcast. It was great. That was it. And they don't really share much about it, like, the key takeaways, the golden nuggets, what
Hmm.
kind of impression the host had on them, or vice versa. And I think that's so important to use these podcast interviews as a ticket into the future. Like, we open the door, the host let you into their house, you were together, you had an amazing experience, but after that you can totally help serve each other and do business together, became friends. I've seen that so many friendships and business relationships forming after a podcast interview, and it just filled up my heart, because it's so beautiful to see that, like, connecting two people, and then they can use that whatever they want in the future.
When you mentioned about sorry, connection, I can totally empathize with that word. And again, when you're sitting down for a podcast, it is not just a conversation. There is something more of a deeper value, taking of that a deeper sense as well as a connection. Deb Care, which was introduced to me, few she comes out about cancer,
Yeah.
and I believe I got so many messages
Mm.
about the positivity that she carries along. And this comes to another nugget, which, and guys, Naomi, she writes some amazing articles on LinkedIn and the other platforms. Just have a look onto it if that's what it's your vibe is about podcasting, but otherwise in general. But one of the things which I would say as a takeaway is that just few days back you had written an article about whether it is a podcast host or a guest. One of the elements is a value,
Mm.
providing a value. So as a host, my goal is not just asking question, but what value can you give to the listeners? And you as a podcast speaker, your thing is you have gotten over here because of the value. What can you say about that?
Yeah, I think we can all add value to each other's lives. And when it happened to, happen on a podcast, it's even amazing. Like, you shout out to Deb, because she's a cancer survivor, like 4 times, 5 times cancer survivor. And that kind of energy that she brings to the table, that's how she adds value to people's lives. Because if you are in trouble, if you're diagnosed with cancer, you know who to turn to. There is
Mhm.
Deb. She's amazing. And also, I think whatever we experienced in life, and we help people to figure out those troubles. Like, in my instance, in my example, for me is like, being positive, adding that kind of positive energy to every single conversation, and to try to teach people that, yeah, we have awful days, we have bad days, and there are days that we don't even want to get out of bed, but
Mhm.
we have to take that kind of small steps approach, and somehow just take our time, be patient with ourselves, and just get out there and add value to others people's lives. So for me is, for example, from my own example and from my own struggles, I'm trying to help people. And if I just help one single person with my advice how to do that, for me it's already a win-win situation, because that's amazing. Like, one of my dear podcast host friends who suffers from pain because of an accident happened to him many years ago, and he can't really walk anymore. And the other day, he posted something about my Walk with Noemi vlog YouTube videos, that although he can't walk, I mean, he walks with me, through me, and my stories feed his soul and body, because he can't do that anymore. But that's how I add value to his life. He can't walk because I have this walking blog, but he follows my walking blog. So we walk together, virtually or in spiritually. And that was so beautiful, because that's how we add value to each other's life. And these are not big things. Like we might think these are like life-changing or world-changing things, but no, they are just small things, how we can add value to each other's life. Sometimes just a call to
I
each
would
other.
challenge you on that. These are small things that adds a big value to
Yes.
others. For us, it may be something small,
Yeah.
but you know what? To that person, to the friend of yours, he has put in for him the value about just reading your blog article or feeling a sense that yes, I can. He can do another day, another time.
Yeah.
And as I always say, is that we all are angels with one wing. When we hold another, that's when we fly higher. So whether it is mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically,
Yeah.
and that's what you've been doing. Do you have any last? Just being mindful of the time. Do you have any last statement that you would love to tell the listeners about?
Yes, I have a basically a quote I live by, and a mantra I live by, and that's so simple yet so powerful. No, actually two. I want to share two. One of them is, always keep going, just keep going.
Beautiful,
Whatever happens in life, just keep going. And the other thing that is about, like your podcast is about resilience and teaching people how to be more resilient in life. The other quote is, I have this actually on my desk, and it's just a little note, like every day is a new life to a wise person. And that's how I try to live. No matter what kind of day you're having, it's always a new life, a new possibility.
beautiful. That is so true. We take things for life itself for granted.
Yeah.
But I ask sometimes when I'm coaching, I ask people, "What are you thankful?" They say, "No, I don't know." I said, "Are you thankful that you woke up in the morning? That you're breathing properly? You got a glass of water that you can just go and take from the whether it's from the tap or from somewhere." We take things so much for granted. Anyway, Naomi, that has been an excellent conversation. Thank you so very much for your space and time. So, guys, just remember what, as the parting word of Naomi was, keep going. And the second thing was, new day, new life. It's always your choice. Naomi, thank you so very much for your space and time. It was a wonderful conversation with you, and best wishes.